episode of Pulse of Polynesia. I'm your host, Leaso Filoialii, coming to you live from Texas. And joining me tonight, also from Texas, is my co host, Kalani Barber. Our guest this evening is a man whose story has inspired Polynesians everywhere, from battling diabetes and fighting for his health to losing over 100 pounds and becoming a certified extreme hip hop instructor. He's transformed pain into purpose and built a movement that unites faith, fitness, and family. His energy is contagious, his journey is powerful, and his faith is unshakable. So let's welcome in the hot seat Tony Fall to Pulse of Polynesia. What's up?
Thank you.
Welcome,
Welcome.
Tony. Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for having
Yes,
me. That
sir.
was very kind. Those appreciate that intro.
Well, welcome to our podcast, and thank you so much, for being able to take the time out to be a guest in the hot seat for Pulse of Polynesia. And as always, we always ask our guests. Let's start with the roots of your beginnings. Where did you grow up, and what was life in the Fall household?
Yeah, it's funny. My mother was pregnant with me, and she her dad got sick, and so she made the decision to travel back to Tonga. My family was already established in the Bay Area, in the eastern part of the Bay Area, and then we're already residents of the United States. And so she went to visit her dad and decided to give birth to me there. So I was actually born in Tonga. And because of that, years later, now I'm a dual citizen. It's funny. And so born there, and then right after she gave birth, she brought me back. And, so I'm a citizen of Tonga, but I don't speak the language fluent. And, but I carry the passport. And, but yeah, I grew up, my family grew up in the eastern part of the Bay Area. It's about maybe 20 minutes inland from Oakland. So I live on the Oakland side of the Bay Area, which is the eastern part. My family was one of the pioneer families in the city of Concord. So I grew up in Concord, and there's surrounding cities of Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek. So I grew up in that area my entire life. And it wasn't until I got married to my beautiful wife, Luana, that we made the decision to relocate to Utah. It was supposed to be temporary because I was one of those California people thought he was too cool to live up in Utah, right? And every time someone asked me like, "Are you guys here? You moving here?" And I made it very clear that we were going to move back. We never moved back, but yeah, I grew up in the eastern part of the Bay Area. I have I have eight. There's 8 children, including myself and my family. 3 boys, 4 girls, and yeah, we grew up there. And like I said, went to high school there, went to junior college there. Then I met then I reconnected with my wife. We got married. But yeah, growing up with my family, my parents, for whatever reason, they made the decision not to teach us the language. My parents speak good English or speak English well. I don't know if it was more to their benefit of, but they never taught us the language, but we were always around the culture. So we may not have been brought up like strictly Polynesian, but we were around the culture enough to understand, the values and understand, in some sense what the culture was all about, how we were supposed to carry ourselves, and understanding the different roles, between men and women, and, just the family structure. So, we were fortunate enough to be able to grow around that. I'm, the faith that I'm affiliated with is I'm LDS, or member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And, at the time, there wasn't that many Polynesians there. So we went to a Caucasian ward, a Balanya ward. And then about when I was in high school, they decided to create a Tongan branch, and we made the transition there. And then they eventually created a Tongan stake. It's the first Tongan stake. A lot of people think it was Utah, but it was in the Bay Area. It was the first Tongan stake that was formed there. And so, yeah, but we grew up around it. We grew up around the culture. I was fortunate enough for the other Polynesian families that were in the Bay Area. A lot of the kids were my age. So like I'm number 3 in my family. So my 2 older siblings kind of grew up, mostly around Balanyas and whatnot. But I had good luck of having more kids that were my age. And so being around the culture was something that I embraced, and like I said, we eventually, even though we lived in Concord, we would always travel everywhere to all the Polynesian events in the Bay Area. So I was always around the culture, and, was proud to be Tongan. And at the same time, I was also proud to be American, and so to be a part of this great country. And so I don't know if there's more if you had any specific questions in regards to my
Yeah.
but my parents were I think they were not traditional in how they brought us up, but at the same time we understand, they did we were acquainted enough with the culture to understand, that they're, the do's and don'ts in the culture, right? Just understanding, respect and, and understanding the different roles and just being proud of being Tongan and being Polynesian in America and whatnot. So
I have to ask you, Tony, if you don't
yeah,
mind, but since
yeah,
you mentioned that you grew up in California, worked in
yeah,
inland,
yeah.
um, 49ers or Raiders?
You know what? When I grew up, the Raiders were in Los Angeles, so by default, it was the red and gold. So, and then when they came
Oh,
back,
okay.
I was already diehard Niners. So, but yeah, I'm an
Okay. Well, I'm a Raider fan, but I was kind of disappointed when I should have just don't ask that question. But
Are you a Raider fan or are you Dallas or
no, I'm
Pittsburgh?
a Raider fan.
Are you a
Yeah,
Raider
I'm a
fan?
Raider fan. Even though I'm wearing my Texas, I support the
Oh, you're good.
Longhorns. But
What's funny is
yeah,
my brother is also he grew up a Niner fan, and all of a sudden when they came back, he became a Raider fan. And I have my
okay,
my younger sister, so we're a divided household for sure.
yeah,
So
yeah. I didn't mean
As long
to
as there's
jump
good
off
food, you
questions,
guys should be okay during the
yeah, yeah,
football.
yeah, yeah. When it's all said and done, the
all
food
the time,
solves all problems.
right?
Yes.
Well, I guess that we could just take it to where to our next question. Then
Yeah.
let's just jump right into it to
Mhm.
where did the hip hop started from, your health and all that. If you don't mind sharing it with us.
Yeah, truthfully, I mean, I never would have saw this chapter in my life taking place. Just like anyone else, I was really, I was always that very skinny Polynesian that, was wondering like why am I not big? Like, like have the size of a typical Polynesian. I was always a toothpick. I was really skinny growing up, and but then I, made the decision to serve as a missionary for my church. Came back and then just naturally, you know, reconnected with my wife. We got married, and then just like most married couples, right, got comfortable, and the weight came on. And so when I got married, I was about 220 pounds. I think for Polynesian, that's maybe on
Small,
the
yeah.
lighter side, right, the smaller
Right.
side.
Yeah.
And was very active. Got married, and just got comfortable and stopped being active as like I used to be. And we moved here to Utah, and then the weight just kept coming on. And when we were, and I think it was the year before COVID, I'd really just, I was pushing up close to 400 pounds. And so I had all this weight, and, my wife, she was, was always in my ear, and, just pleading with me, honey, I don't want to be a widow, please. Like, I need you to do something about your health. And, you would naturally just think that, cause she was like, I need do it for me and the kids. And you would think that that would be motivating, right? You think that would be inspire you to make the changes, and it wasn't doing anything for me. And, and I noticed, as I was at this point of a time in my life where my health was just spinning out of control, I noticed that I was starting to have symptoms. And the funny thing is, I knew what the symptoms were. I was in complete denial, as if those symptoms weren't taking place. And but they were coming on stronger and stronger. And then I eventually, I came back from California one trip, and I just didn't feel right. And I remember waking up, and I came to my wife and I said, "Hey, I'm going to take myself into the hospital." And she was like, she goes, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I just don't feel right." And then I asked her, I said, your dad's how he tests his blood. Test his, to test the, the sugar levels in his blood. Could you do that for me? And she's like, "Why would you need to do that?" And I go, could you do it? And I'll never forget it. She pricked my finger with a blood strip, and I just remember her face just went pale. And she goes, "We got to get to the hospital." And I go, "Why?" She goes, "We just got to go." And, she later on explained to me that she goes, remember her dad had just had a stroke just a few months prior to that. And it was because his sugar levels were up in the 200s, where mine was in the 300s. And and so we went into the emergency room. They tested me again, and they're like, "Let's go." They rushed me back, got me on this insulin drip, and to just try to get the numbers down. And we were there all day. We had a lot of doctors come in, and the dietitians. They were just trying to explain to me like, "Hey, you officially you have diabetes now. And so they were explaining these things to me, and then the doctor was with me, and it's what I remembered the most from the visit. Is he said, Tony, you're carrying a lot of weight, and don't quote me, don't quote this as scripture, but I just truly believe in my heart that if you can drastically drop weight, there might be a chance that you can, reverse these symptoms, and just, you could. And that's the only thing I remember about that whole experience in the hospital was those words. I made a decision in my mind when I left that hospital that I was going to put that to the test. And so I came back, went cold turkey, just went in and it just really ate clean, cut out all the sugar. And it was, and I started to drop weight. And it was during this time COVID hit and there was nothing going on, everything was closed. And I remember I go, I got to find something to supplement this new routine. And then I remembered from years ago, I was surfing YouTube and I saw this, this guy named Phil Whedon when these really hyped, classes on the step board, and I was like, man, I'm going to try it. But I was so shy because, I was, typical guys like this, stepping's only for girls, So I literally sneak into my garage. I put my phone up and then I try it. I don't even last 10 minutes. I'm like fatigued. But I loved it. So anyway, make a long story short, I came and I confided in my wife and I said, would you do this with me? And so we started doing it in the basement and we went and I wasn't using the step. It was too hard for me. And so we were just moving and doing this because at the time, the creator of the program was doing these free sessions on YouTube. So every day during COVID, my wife and I were just watching those sessions and doing it. And, the weight was starting to come off even faster. And then I told her, I said, I think I'm ready to try using a step board. So we went to Walmart and bought one of those cheap ones, the ones that are really thin and small, my big body couldn't even barely, be able to step on it. But I did that. We did that for a few months. And then I finally got the courage to move on to your traditional standard aerobic step. And it was at that time, COVID happened. It shut down in April, the beginning of April. And, we were going into the summer months and, we were locked down. So I worked for the airlines at the time and we flew down to spend some time with my family. And I confided in them. I told them, I said, hey, I'm trying this new program. And, my brothers in particular, they were looking at me like, dude, you're lame, dude. You're actually, you're doing a step program. But I introduced.
They should have saw the difference between how you looked before and now at that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're. I think I would have had the same response if it was my brother come in. But you know what, they did it. I said, try it. And so we were doing this in the garage during COVID as a family. And it was during that time in the summer where, my sister Lila got on board. You might have heard about my sister. She's also an instructor. And she's like, I'm going to get certified as an instructor. And I was like, yeah, do your thing. And so, and then at the same time, my wife was like, you should really document your journey, just kind of as a journal and as a hold yourself accountable. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And she goes, you should do it. My sister encouraged me too. And so I started posting my workouts on social media. And then those videos started to go viral and it connected me with the creator of the program. And then all of a sudden we started to interact during his live sessions on YouTube and started to build a relationship. And I had never met the guy before. And actually went down later that summer. Everything was still shut down. I went down to Sacramento, got a chance to meet him, both me and my sister Lila, my wife, and we all went and met him. But it was during that time where I decided, I was like, you know what? If this program has helped me so much, has really impacted my life in this way, then maybe it can help some other people. Maybe if I can get certified, I can help, I could introduce it to some other people. They can get certified as instructors, and then I could step away because I had no desire to be an instructor. So I got certified, and then it was in October later of 2020. I decided to teach my first class, and I remember because of COVID restrictions, I could only have a certain number. So I posted my class. I advertised. I posted it, and my class filled up in less than 5 minutes. And then I was like, "That's weird." So I told my wife, I said, "Well, maybe I should have another session." because I had some people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I can't get in your class," and I go, "Well, I'll do another one." So I did 2 classes. It was on Halloween of October 2020, and I posted that, and they were both, it was small numbers, but they were both they filled up really quickly. So I taught those classes, and then I was getting so much inquiries like, "Hey, how can I come join your class?" So I said, maybe I'll teach a couple classes during the week. So I started teaching a class on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I would post the link to my class, and less than 5 minutes later, people were messaging me saying, "Dude, I can't get in your class. How can I get into your class?" And the demand became so great that I said, well, maybe I better start teaching every day. And I was posting my class every day, and people were just fighting to get into the class. I don't say that like arrogantly. I'm just telling you that
Right.
for some reason, people that were coming to the class were loving, this hip hop version of aerobic stepping. And then before you knew it, I started teaching in multiple studios, and I ended up bringing down the creator of the program to Utah, and he had been here before. And so when I first met him, a few months prior, my first question when I met him was, "Can I get you to come to Utah?" And he said, "Utah?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "No, we're not coming to Utah, Tony. We came last time, and it was," in his words, "bootsy." He goes, "It was bootsy. We're not coming back there." And I go, "I promise I can get people there." And he goes, "Well, we'll talk about it." He calls me in November of later on of 2020, says, "We're going to come, Tony. Can you make it happen?" Well, our governor here just put a restriction, like you can't have more than 10 people. And I said, "Man, I don't think I can do it." And he goes, "Well, you told me that you can do it. So either you make it happen or not." So make a long story short, December comes, and they said, "How many people you think you have, Tony?" I said, I think I could get maybe 60. And they're like, "Tony, are you sure? 60? I go, "I think I get 60. When the day came when they posted, the tickets went live, they sold out in less than 5 minutes. And then the people were hitting me up. They're like, "Dude, I can't get tickets. What's going on? The link down?" And so I reached out to them, and I go, "Hey, they're saying the link's down." They're like, "Is it sold out?" And they checked in. They're like, "Tony, it is sold out." They're like, "Do you think you can sell more?" And I go, 40 more. They're like, "Tony, you do that. That's the most we've ever had at an extreme event." I said, "I think we can do it." They posted it sold out in 5 minutes. He comes down to Utah. He's blown away. It's 100 majority Polynesians that are stepping, in this event. He's blown away. It's like, it's just an amazing experience. It went viral. Now, fast forward into 2021, me and my siblings are talking, and we're like, "Why don't we do a step in for the Foz event? Let's just us. We'll do the event. We'll do it and see how it goes." And I remember my sister posted the link, and she reaches out to me, and like in about 15 minutes, she goes, "You won't believe what's going on." I go, "Well, what's going on?" She goes, "We're almost at 200 people in less than 15 minutes." And so we had over 200 plus at that event. And it was those videos that went viral, that went across, to New Zealand and Australia and everywhere else. And the next thing you knew, before you knew it, and we had Polynesians getting certified in LA, in Washington, in Hawaii, in New Zealand, and in Australia, and so that's like the abbreviated version of how everything came to be, is just made from a decision to start teaching. And I never could have imagined that it would grow to what it became. But it was just the experience of witnessing it and seeing the impact that the program has had in thousands of people's lives, and especially when we're talking about our people. I mean, a year later, after we had that session with my siblings, I wanted, my wife and I were talking about, creating a Polynesian step event for Xtreme Hip Hop. And it was really, for me, the vision behind it, with me and my wife and my sister Lila and my brother, we wanted to do something where we could we could show our appreciation for the creator of the program, at the same time be able to share the beauty of our culture with him. And so we came up with the name Poly Step Fest, and we decided to have the first one in, I think it was in 2021. And that event, we had over around 500 people there, most of them Polynesians. Being a part of that, it's become one of the premier events of Xtreme. It's one of their main events, and we're going into our 6th year now, and it's going to be in Washington, and this year. And so, yeah, it's been an incredible journey. It just been very humbling to be a part of it. So that's my little short version of
No,
that.
no, that's pretty cool. It's kind of nice. It's really good to hear your story because I want to take it back to where it started from when you had that health problem, the medical
Yeah.
condition. And
Yeah.
you know, I, when I first moved here in Texas, I never had any doctor visits or anything like that. Some sort of like, that's just the typical Polynesian mentality.
Yeah.
Sure.
But when I started working out there and at the airport within the elements, then you start having these headaches and all that. So, and I started talking to some of my coworkers, and it was like, "Man, you got to go see the doctor, man. You have to go see the doctor. We have the benefit. Just go ahead and just give it a try." So I did. I remember my first appointment, first time I was nervous, I was shaking because I never had this kind of type experience of actually facing somebody like that that's going to tell me what I need to do, which I'm with my health. But anyway, I remember the first time that when the nurse took my blood pressure. And when the nurse took my blood pressure, she had this eyes like she was open widely and asking, "Are you okay? Do you have any headaches or anything? You feel dizzy?" There's so many. I was bombarded with a lot of questions, not knowing where is she leading this to. But anyway, she had to took me back to the room where I met the doctor, and the doctor sat down and he's telling me all these things. Now, mind you, when I just moved from Samoa, I didn't speak very well English as well. I was just a fresh off the boat little kid, just being
Yeah.
over here, not even knowing that, man, I don't even know how to face this kind of professional guy asking me all these kind of questions, especially go into medical terms. But anyway, when he was telling me, he said that, yo, I want to let you know that your blood pressure is so high, and it's the type of breeding, that it can put somebody into a coma or having seizures or anything. It's the reason for my nurse that to ask you all these questions. And so I was asking him, so what's my readings, doc? And he told me that your readings was 248 over 120. And he was asking me, do you feel dizzy? Same questions that the nurse asked me. So I told him, no, I feel fine. I'm okay. So anyway, long story short, checkup visit ran into about almost 4 hours because he had to put me in a dark room and I had to take some of the medications so that where they can't release me without having my blood pressure lowering down to a certain level. But anyway, I did was actually eating a lot coming from the island and introduced to all these nice fast food and everything. Man, it was pretty good to have that kind of taste. It was different. So I was actually taking advantage of it. So, and then I realized it's not doing any good for my health. So along the way, I actually was visiting my doctor and telling me what I need to do as far as diets. And that's when I started to realize I'm like, so backtrack it to what you were experiencing and what you were telling me. I'm pretty sure that a lot of our Polynesians out there can relate. It's either that you're diabetic or high blood pressure and all that kind of stuff. And some of the stuff that we do as far as eating on our diets, man, we can go all out. I mean, I remember that we had our podcast one time that I mentioned that our Polynesians, a lot of people will eat until they're full, but us Polynesians will eat until we're tired so we can go to sleep. And that's exactly what I did. So, but it's another thing that I want to say. Kudos to your wife, Moana. Thank you for pushing you, because if it wasn't for my spouse as well, I wouldn't be able to visit these, have my doctor's visits or actually attend the doctor's visits because I wouldn't be able to go without having her next to me because she would actually pushing me and telling me. So,
Yeah.
um, your companion is actually, a cool person and a very good supporter for your journey and your venture, and for that, that's pretty cool that to hear your story.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully that we can see you to come down to Texas because we do have a lot of Polynesians out here that need that kind of step. It's extreme.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't know. Go ahead, also, if you have any questions.
Oh,
Or
so I wanted to ask in regards to the dieting and foods. You had mentioned that you went cold turkey, and not a lot of people are able to just like, because I know I've met so many people who had completely went cold turkey with certain addiction. And when you are addicted to certain things, like for example, I'm addicted to chocolate. and and it's so like I will say I'm gonna go cold turkey for chocolate and do my workout, but then after that workout, that fiend and that craving comes back. So when you went cold turkey and you decided to do the step, you must have been going through some chemical reaction that really had a big impact on you in the first day of your step. You're talking about you didn't really get to complete it because it was hard in the first couple of minutes. So how did you battle fighting those demons in your mind when it came to cutting back on certain things and pushing forward when it came to your steps and trying to be motivated?
Yeah, truthfully, at least at that particular moment, and when I was diagnosed, just seeing my wife's face, just the fear, the uncertainty of what laid ahead for us, and then being given, really like a, in some ways, I viewed it as, like a potential, it's definitely a life changing diagnosis, but I was looking at like, man, you can die, you can die from this thing, and so for me, being able to go cold turkey, meaning that I was able just to really lock in, and truthfully, I like to say that there was a struggle there, but I think the realization itself of being in the doctor's office, having all those nurses around me, seeing the concern in their faces, and seeing, like my dad died. He was diabetic. He was on dialysis. So I had already seen the lifestyle. And the hope of the words from the doctor of, man, I think you can reverse this thing if you just really go all in. If you truly commit to making the necessary changes in your life, I think you can do it. And what's crazy is they brought me in, and as a follow up, they were telling me, when you do your testing for, it's the AC1 test.
Yeah,
Yeah, the AC1 or A1C.
I know what you mean.
I mean, yeah. And what
Yeah.
that test is it's to test how much sugar is attached to each blood cell in your bloodstream, and so we came in, and on a scale of, they were telling me that I was really high. I was like at a 14, and they were telling me like, man, we need to get that down. Do you think we can manage getting it down to 10? He goes, even 10 is really high. If you can 5 is normal. So if you can get it down to 10, anywhere between 10 and 7, he goes, I think we're gonna be in a good place moving forward. So I left the doctor's office after my follow-up visit, and just really committed, like I'm gonna come back and reach those numbers. I came back a month later. It could have been a month or two later. And I remember coming in, they had me take the test, and then I was sitting in the doctor's office. And as I was sitting there, I heard some noise, from down the hall, and it was someone that was yelling. And the yelling got louder as it got closer to, as the person that was making that noise was coming, towards me, towards the office I was in. And then all of a sudden, it was right outside the door, and the door to the doctor's office flew open. It was my doctor. He's like, Tony, what was the goal? And I go, you said, anywhere between 7, like 10 and 7. He goes, do you know what your score was? And I go, no, I don't. He goes, it was a 5, Tony. It was a 5. You're all the way back to normal. And just seeing the excitement in his face. And he goes, if you can maintain these numbers in your visits, your follow-up visits, he goes, we're gonna have to look at, we're gonna look at like weaning you off, because they just put me on metformin at the time. We're gonna wean you off the diabetic medication and whatnot. What he didn't know is I had already weaned myself off. I already started weaning myself off, and I came back for the follow-up visits. My numbers were normal, and that's when they were telling me like, you're good. He goes, you're good. Now he goes, we don't just, now you can just come do your follow-up visits every 6 months and whatnot, and just make sure. But as far as being diabetic, we're gonna remove that from your file. You're not going to be considered diabetic anymore. So that was just so exciting for me to be able to hear those words. And like I said, I don't think I did anything drastic. I just took the approach that I felt would work for me, because there's a lot of diet fads out there, right? And everyone's doing
Yeah.
keto, everyone's doing intermittent fasting, and I'm not saying that those diets don't work, but for me, I just knew that the reason why, in my opinion, why so many people choose those fads, because they want the immediate results, and I knew that if I wanted lasting results, I had to do the hardest type of diet, which is just disciplining yourself to eat better, eat
Yes.
smaller portions. That's what I did. I cut my portions down. I cut out sweets because they told me I had to cut down on ice cream or I would die. And I actually thought about it for a second. No, skin, but
I was like, oh man.
yeah, they're like, Tony, what's your favorite thing? And I was like,
Yeah.
ice cream. And they're like, okay, well, instead of eating the box, you can eat,
Like
you
this,
just,
this.
is that a
One
scoop?
scoop is good.
Yeah, once you, yeah, that's what I did. I think I feel very fortunate that I was really focused, and I
Yeah.
think it was just because of my why. I mean, I kept thinking back to my wife's face, and
Yeah.
just the thought that that I could be gone.
Hmm.
So
You
yeah.
you know what's so unique about this whole thing is your body was so used to holding on a thin line that you're about to collapse, but you just kept on moving yourself. So that kind of just tells me the type of drive that you have within your soul, that even after this journey, you're still pushing yourself. That's your mentality,
Well,
you know.
I was fortunate because I think Kalani hit her on the button. My wife was a big part of it. She did it with
Mm,
me. And when I started posting these videos of my journey, and those videos, just happened to, to go viral, and my wife was behind everything, and she's been by my side on this whole thing. And the thing is that, and this may be further down in our discussion, but you know, the battle's still there. I mean, in fact,
yeah.
I put back on some of the weight that I had lost, but and then I'm currently trying to shed some of that weight back off. And but just because I went through something as traumatic as that doesn't mean that the battle's over. I continue. That has been a continuous battle for me. Where just like anyone else, I'm just like anyone else. The yo-yo effect of
Yes.
like, yeah, I was really focused and committed, and then then I lost discipline.
Plateau.
And
Yeah.
got plateau, get comfortable, and then like I'm only gonna eat a little ice cream, or I'm gonna, or you just you lose discipline. And it's
Hmm.
because for me, I forget my why I'm doing it, and then I'm able to get back
Yeah.
on track. And so the journey's the battle for me is is ongoing, but but I'm just fortunate to have a wife that just like, hey,
Yeah.
you gotta get back on it, and so
Yeah, I wanna just kind of like go off a little bit. I want to
sure.
say something, growing up as a kid, and then we get to our teenage years, and at the time that I used to go clubbing, and man, I'll tell you what, I never knew and I never understand the benefit of clubbing, because some people they go there just to have some drinks and stuff like that. But when I go, I like to go dance, and every time after I dance and come off clubbing, sweating all that, and I can imagine that extreme hip hop. The thing of it is that when you were saying that you had your why, and I just kind of like follow where you're talking about from your medical condition to where that you're actually being instructor. Man, it's just amazing that the story goes along with it, because you found something that is actually nice, and it's actually fun as well. That actually give you that consistency to be able to carry on this, and not only that you're doing it as, I would say, maybe like a business, but at the same time it's like a fun thing that you're actually doing it for the benefits of
Hmm.
others, but not knowing that it's still being consistency of what your health was, and looking into it right now that it's benefiting you a lot. And now, and of course, most of the roles that is played because of your companion next to you pushing you towards to this kind of stuff. And then I'll take it back to that clubbing thing. I look forward to it sometimes every Friday. I'll like, man, I can't wait so I can go look for something to wear and then go to the club and start dancing, man. But not knowing that now, I realize it's like there's a reason why that a lot of people are loving these hip hop extreme dancing or steps or whatever. But you're right. It's just the mentality of our Polynesian people. It's like, man, stepping is just for females, man. Why you got to do all that kind of stuff? But not knowing,
It's for all the
you know,
Jane Fonda
for
girls.
all the, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it's just that it's nice to see our Polynesian to drifting towards something that is different from our typical Polynesian. I would say like mentality as far as sports, because that's where most of our thinking as parents always push our kids to sports, and our mentality as well. It's always towards that kind of stuff. But with this kind of stuff, man, it makes me want to go to my garage now and start putting some music on and start stepping now, so I
Yeah.
can sweat a little bit. But the thing of it is that not, I didn't mean to kind of drift it off with our subject and stuff like that. But I always think about those kind of stuff because those are growth moments, and it
yeah.
does relieve a lot of not. But now I don't know. I got to make sure that I have to go see my doctor with my knees and see if I can do all the steps and everything.
Yeah.
Well,
So that
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
you could.
No, I was just saying that that I think uh, and not to give me like more credit than I should. The program was perfectly set up for our people because it had the what I believe is the elements of what our people love the most, which is music and dancing. Good music and dancing. And so I thought I believe that the reason why people were so attracted to it is because it had those elements, and I just happened to be in a position where I could introduce it to a lot of our people, and you talk about the stigma of like, oh man, it's only for women, man. I struggle with it. Remember, I didn't want to be an instructor. I just wanted to share it with some people and convince them to get certified. Then I was going to go back to my basement and do my own little private sessions with my wife. And then here I am 5 years later, still teaching. I've actually tried to retire. I've tried to retire or walk away from teaching at least twice. I've even had a retirement party. Like I'm done. I'm passing the baton on to someone else, and I've come back. And so this is my second time back out of a premature retirement. Um, but yeah, it's just I would have never thought. I just it'd blow your mind. I've had former NFL players in my classes stepping. I one of there's a player by the name, he coaches at BYU, and his name is Shone Pouha. He got certified as an Xtreme instructor and was teaching classes during COVID. And then we have a guy named Matt Asiata. Matt is one of the baddest steppers in the Xtreme band. He is like a magician on the step board. He can do everything that we wish we could do, the flipping, the cartwheel. But Matt during COVID, Matt would come with his whole family and they would step. And so those barriers were, just to see them broken down. There was classes that I used to teach where I had people who couldn't use step boards. They were just moving on the floor and they could only, just do, raise their knee to each side. But that was good
Mm.
enough. And the environment and the music and just everything that we do in our classes just help them get to a better place. And so
Yeah.
it's been an incredible journey. So
One thing I noticed too, like, because it took me about, I think, 3 or 4 years to really shed the weight. And when I had my sixth child, like all my kids, 5 kids, it took me maybe 2 weeks to 6 months to get back to my weight. But it was my sixth child that I was like, why am I not losing that weight? Like I could go work out as much, and I love lifting weights and I love doing all this stuff. But I love what you said. You found something that you enjoy, you love to do that worked for you. Because not everybody has the same workout that works for them, right?
sure.
And and I realized that as I got older, those workouts that I normally would do didn't work for me. And it was I found out when I went to go see my doctor, like what you guys mentioned. I did not like going to the doctors. I did not like, other than having my kids and that was it, I'm done, you don't have to see me. But I noticed as I got older, I needed to see them more often. And then I found out that because of having kids, I had complications and my hormones were all messed up. And because I was able to fix my hormones, that's when I started to lose the weight, when I start working out. And it went to figuring out what works for me, just like what you mentioned. that
Yeah.
that's when I was able to get back to my size. But I love stuffing, and when I heard about your program, I was like, that is way better than what I remember back in the late 90s when it was
Sure.
so boring. You
Yeah.
had those long socks. I was like, that's the 70s. I don't want to see.
Some of them
And
seem
it
like a
was,
lot sucks.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
but
Richard
to
Simmons.
be
I don't
able,
know if you guys
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
Richard
I remember
Simmons.
Richard.
Richard Simmons. I should have remember what's his name? What's
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
afro?
Yeah.
What's his
He's
name?
from my
Oh
area.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. The Richard Simmons
but
times.
but
That's
it's so
right.
Mm.
nice to be able to see our own polys taking control of that because we, it's one thing working out, but it's another thing that you need to find out, like also at the same time what's going on with you, in the, what's that word, inside your body, other than the outside, right, the appearance and everything, but what's going on with your blood, what's going on with your organs. Fix that first before you get into something that you're going to try to work as much as you can, but nothing's going to happen.
Sure.
So the fact that you're able to see the doctor and then find a program that works for you. Now my other question is, I'm sure there are times where, in the beginning stage, that you probably felt like you wanted to quit, and being that you have a wife that has always been with you from day one, has there been moments where you had questioned yourself, like, do I need, is this going to work for us? Is this going to work? Is it putting too much stress on your family, work, and everything else? And have you ever felt the spirit to keep on going? And how did that work for you?
Yeah, like for me, I'm just like anyone else. I needed a voice that believed in me, and I had that voice in my wife. But I needed, outside of my wife, I still needed someone, pumping belief into me that, man, I could make the necessary changes that I need to make. And it was the creator of the program. His name is Phil Whedon, and and so when I started tuning into his live sessions, and then we eventually connected through social media, and he would speak to me, on these live sessions, and I need that voice because the motto of his program is don't stop, don't quit, don't give up. And it was, going through these grueling workouts because, extreme hip hop is intense, and so, when I'm here in the basement and I needed his voice, like, come on, Tony. And, it's amazing to me because of the blessing of being in the position that I've been in, and being able to share this program with so many people. My voice has become that voice for a lot of people. And a lot of the Polynesians look to me, and I say this very humbly, they look at me as as their Phil. And what they don't know is I'm not any different from them. I needed Phil's voice to speak belief into me because
Mhm.
there were times where I was discouraged, and there were times where I didn't want to finish the workout. There were times where I didn't believe I could do, I could finish, doing what I needed to do. And it was Phil's voice that was like, don't stop, Tony, don't quit. And it's why I feel so much. I feel such a debt of gratitude to him. My gratitude for Phil has no bounds. For what he did, he saved my life.
Hmm.
I want to take you to your plan if you don't
Yeah,
mind me
sorry,
asking.
man.
We'll get back to Phil, but
Yeah, no worries.
just a quick question: who chooses the music? Or I know you plan Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but as a workout, somebody when they do their workouts, like if you go lift weights, okay, Monday's going to be my arms, Tuesday's going to be my legs, and all that and so forth. But as far as extreme hip hop and the music, do you go by it the way that you feel, or do you have specific plans of what kind of routine you have to do it Monday, routine on Tuesday, then maybe Friday will be a burnout that we're going to do all out? Who chooses the music? Is you or somebody else?
No, it's me. I choose the music. The thing for me, and I feel really grateful to that I've had this. I've continued with this practice ever since I started teaching. Is I I people are making an investment to come to my classes, and I've never taken that lightly. I've never taken
Yeah.
lightly the fact that people look to me to deliver an experience, or to help push them to do something that they don't want to do. I've never taken that responsibility lightly. So I am very strategic. I mean, I even to this day, I still study my craft. I
Yeah.
still I still come in with a shadow playlist that I plan on using, but I'm very interactive in my class. So when I'm teaching, I watch the people. I pay attention to if the playlist is moving them, and if I have to make an adjustment. I'm always watching. I'm always, I'm checking the pulse of the class so I can make the necessary adjustments to elevate the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm very strategic in what I do. I know I never wing it because I just never wanted to get to a place where I just thought like, I thought like, man, you're experienced, or you're so good, you don't have to do this. And what really has kept me, kept me in that place is like, man, these people are paying money to come to my classes, and I want to make sure they walk out of that class and be like, dang, that was worth more than anything than the class fee that I paid. And so, yeah, I do the playlist. I choose the music, and then it's very rare that I stick to my playlist because, again, I always gauge the pulse of the class. And if I feel like they're struggling and I have to push them and it means changing the pace of the music, I'll do that. If I feel like, like I could slow it down and they could dance on the step, more dancing, more so than more like exercising type of movement, then I'll do that. So I try my best to be very in tune to what the class is going through during the class. So sorry.
Man, I can just picture you being a DJ, because you can be a DJ seriously. Like you can just do the mix and all that, boards and everything, while motivating everybody in the club. Nah, I didn't mean to go to that.
When I tried DJing once, it was for my ward, and the bishop said the worst DJ that they ever had in the history.
That's funny.
So my DJ days were over the first time I tried it. So.
Right. So. Yeah, but if you don't mind going back to your coach, I can't remember his name that you were talking about. I know that he plays a lot of roles and everything for pushing you to where that you almost, when Sister Leaso was talking about, if there was a time that you almost gave up, always quit, not finishing some of the sessions and all that. But if you don't mind carrying on.
Yeah, man, I just, like I said, I needed a voice. And at that time, it was a very dark chapter in my life. And, like it was his voice that brought light it brought belief and hope that I could follow through with what the doctor told me that could possibly happen, that could become a reality. And then obviously the support system of my wife and children. When we started the experience, my kids and my wife were stepping with me in the basement, and so that was huge as well. And then when my siblings jumped on board and were doing it, it just became a family affair, and my sister, me and my sister and my brother, who are all instructors, the Polynesian people who do Xtreme, they look at us in a certain way, and we're really humbled by it. And I just believe that, it's because that program has impacted all of our lives. My sister, my brother, and even my siblings who they're not instructors, but they do Xtreme as well. And so, and then, from an instructor perspective, like I said, guys, I never wanted to teach this long. But when you're working with people and you see that they're depending on you, because again, I've tried to retire twice. I wanted to scale back and just kind of go back to my own life, but you feel a sense of obligation. You feel a pull. Like it's like we need you. And you can't leave. You can't stop teaching. We need these classes. And, I have a majority of my students obviously are women. And, I've had many of them share their stories with me. And as they've shared their stories, their challenges, their trials, just their demons, it shakes you. It shakes you to the core, because you look at some of these people, you look at a particular person, you're like, this person's vibrant. They got this, very outgoing personality, and they're very outgoing. They're, the people, everyone loves them. And then they share their journey with you. And behind that facade is a person that's on the verge of taking their life. And when they tell you their story, I mean, it shakes you to the core, man. It's just like, a lot of these women have shared their stories, and I've kept them privately. And occasionally I'll go back and I'll read the stories, of what they shared with me, and I'm just like, it's kept me, and it's part of what has kept me to keep teaching, is because I've just, I feel a sense of obligation that I have to keep teaching because there's so many people depending on me, and that's what keeps pulling me back. It's just like, when you lose that sense of purpose, like when I tried to retire the first time, um, I was humbled by just the outreach of the poly community saying, please, we need you to come back. We need you to come back. We need your help, and it's just like, and then when you're not doing that, you're not fulfilling that purpose or that role. It's just like, man, I got to go back. These people need me. I need to go back and help them. And so I just feel so blessed that, I've been able to be in this role, to be able to help people out because, again, I was just using the program just to get me in a better place. And by getting me in a better place, it has now allowed me to help other people. So,
the beauty of this platform right here is like, regardless of your professional background, of all the hot seats and all the people that we've been talking and having this conversation, it always leads to where that, man, it opens up another door to where that we can talk about. Because you were talking, this right here was, we were talking about the condition, your medical condition, and myself as well. And now it leads to where that when you were mentioning, our community, Polynesian itself as a whole, the mental statement that we actually, if you don't mind me towards, moving towards that way, that I'm glad that you brought that up, because there are some our people out there, any Polynesian out there, Samoan, Tongans, Micronesians, Hawaii. I think this is one of the sensitive topic that a lot of people that our own community are shy from sharing. And for me to listen to some of the clients that you had and some of these dancers that actually came up and opened to you and expressed their, to let you know some of the problems that you were actually listening to, that it almost sounded like it put them on the verge of taking their life. It's amazing to me, because not only that you're helping these people out to at least gain something as far as their medical condition, but there's another reason why that some of this can benefit from other people. And then one of the benefits is from those, it's the mental issue as well. That's another sensitive topic. But to me, I think that we should be more open to that, because a mental statement nowadays is really, it's a problem, and it's a critical thing for our community as well. I mean, there are people out there that are actually sharing it in any platform, as far as like Facebook and all that kind of stuff and everything. But to me, I remember when I was going through a lot of stress, and then when I go clubbing, it's like the most relieved thing I ever had. I mean, dancing my behind off and getting sweats and everything, it's just like a relief.
Yeah.
So I think that, because of what you're doing, is that it does reminds me of, man, there's a lot of great benefits and it's not only for medical reasons as well, like what I was just mentioning, but it does affect other people as well, to relieve some of the stress that they go through with their life throughout the week, But other than that, I just wanted to mention that, I know that there's a lot of people that wants to go over there to lose weight, but I think that maybe some of the stuff that does play a big role to that weight is because of the mental issue and because of the stuff that they have to go through. So didn't want to go touch more about that sensitive topic, but I think that it's our people that should be able to at least share it no matter what, regardless, whatever it's in you, just go ahead and let it out, because it feels good. It feels good when you let it out,
Yeah, it's very clear. It's very apparent that for many of the women that the class is therapeutic for them. It's their chance to step away from their motherly duties or, the stresses of their career or whatnot. I mean, if for the women, it's like front and center every time they come to my class, and to see them come and push through the grind of what we're doing is beyond anything physical. It's all mental. It's not even, the benefits of the workout is far more beneficial mentally and emotionally for the women or anyone that comes to the class than anything physical. Yeah. What we do, that's front and center. Every class I have is, especially for the women, because they carry so much. A lot of the women that come to my class, being moms and some of them working jobs and, just the stresses of just life in itself. And for them to come there and just to release them, to release all that, and it's definitely therapy for them every time. And so, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So,
So I have to ask, but before I ask, you have mentioned about, there's where you got your certification and how he has helped you and stuff, how he has breathed life into you,
yeah,
and you in return do the same to those who have come to your class. And because you wanted to return the favor, and you've seen those who are coming to your class for so many different reasons, and that continues to push you to do the craft that you do, because you want to make sure that it's not boring, but it's also at the same time, keeping them to come and be renewed every time. But I have to ask, you guys are talking about on the women's side, right? For men, I mean, it's got to be the same thing for guys to be able to like release some of that mental tension or stress. I mean, it is unless there's a different way that they go about in doing it, but isn't this the same way that they could come to the class and be able to
absolutely.
do?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guys that have come to the class that over the years, and I still have a few guys, um,
Okay.
the benefits have been have been the same for them. I remember they're one of the first guys that came. He played played college football, and he played in the NFL. And I was shocked when I saw him come to class with his wife, and he started coming regularly. And so I finally had an opportunity to pull him aside, and I was like, "Man, you actually like this?" And his response to me was, "I would rather do this over 30 minutes of cardio on the treadmill and ecliptic cycle." And I go, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "Well, I'm able to come here and get lost in the music, and
Mhm.
before I can even blink, we've done an hour of moving, just moving and just being able to come here and just really lose myself and
Yeah.
the emotionally and mentally." And it is the same for the guys. The problem with the guys is they got just a thicker shell that you got to have to kind of get through. The women are more transparent, or at least they wear their emotions on their sleeve, I like to believe. But the guys that have come, I've seen the same benefits for them mentally and emotionally, and them too as well. What they're going through. So, unfortunately, just too many guys allow this stereotype of like it's only for women, to stop them from coming. Because the guys that have come, every single guy has loved it. There's not one guy that has come and tried it that hasn't loved it. But the problem is just getting the guys to come. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's because they don't want to come in a room full of women that move with the women, but a lot of the guys that come, they come with their wives and they're able to get past that. But yeah, it's the same challenge. It goes both ways, I believe, from what I've seen. So.
Look, if you could do pickleball, you could do step, and it's way better than pickleball because you could get music at the same time.
Yeah, I think so. There's two extreme programs. There's one that involves a step, and they call that extreme hip hop. Then there's one that's called extreme burn, which is I teach that more than even step now because it's become more popular. And you can look at extreme burn as it's like a modern version, a modern hip hop version of Taibo. A lot of a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
boxing movements, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's high intensity cardio, so you're moving more, you're burning more, but you don't have to use a step board. And so that has become my most popular class right now. And you burn more. So like for example, for a guy, you're
Yeah.
a guy, if I do extreme hip hop and it's a very intense workout, I could be burning anywhere from 600 to 800 calories. Well, if I do burn for that same amount of time, I'm burning close to 1,000 to 1,200 calories in 1 hour. And so the women, the reason I believe that program has become more popular is because the women, or it's mostly women that come, but the people who come to burn, they're seeing more, they're seeing faster results, they're seeing, uh, you know,
Mm.
better changes in their makeup uh, um, with burn than they do with step, and so yeah, so I actually for the extreme brand, I teach both of those programs. So
Mm.
Is there a level as far as like a beginner, like for myself as a beginner, do I
yeah,
need to take
I
a
only teach beginner classes. I mean, I have some people who are like, when it comes to step, I have people who are maybe more advanced in their skill set, and when you're advanced, you can do everything in extreme. It's just like any other program. It's all timing, right? And so some of those people may freestyle and do their own stuff, but I'm a big believer in doing sticking to the basics because it caters to everybody.
Yeah.
Anyone, it caters to the person that can't do those advanced movements, and I would rather do something that can cater to everybody, where everyone feels comfortable, because you can come as a first timer and you're seeing all these people flipping and cartwheeling on their step, and you're like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm not coming back to this class. And so I've always, all my classes have always been beginners. Like I have my sister Lila, who in my my humble opinion is outside of the creator of the program, she's the best when it comes to doing advanced calls outs. And so her class is very advanced. You watch it and you get dizzy just watching her steppers. They're just flipping, cartwheeling, and doing everything on the step board. But yeah. So that's what she's known for in her classes. So, but I've always been, my classes have always been beginners.
So talk about social media when you first hit that number. I mean, I'm talking about probably almost 1 million people now on your extreme uh, social media. But as far as our Polynesian, how did it feel? How did it feel when you start and see our community coming together to join this step? Because like what you're talking about, and as us Polynesian, that we have to see others to join, before the other crowd start moving. It's like our own philosophy as far as Polynesians. It's like, oh, I'm not going to go because there's no other Polynesian going. So, and then when you see that community start coming together, if you don't mind taking this back and talk about it.
Yeah, man. Truthfully, it was very humbling to see. And when we started to see Xtreme Hip Hop sprout up in Polynesian communities in LA and in Hawaii and Washington, and eventually went overseas. I mean, to see everybody doing it, it's just, and then to be able to put together an event that brought everybody together, or everyone that could at least make it. It's humbling. I mean, you have to be in a room, if to be in a room in a gymnasium where you see hundreds of Polynesians moving. It's absolutely incredible. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, you can watch the videos on YouTube and you could think it's cool, but when you're there in person and you see everybody moving together, like driven by the purpose of just trying to get to a better place, there's nothing like it. I can't even describe it. It's just it's the most amazing thing to witness with your own eyes. I've had people that have helped with the organization of it, but they don't step, and every single one it's been universal in their commentary. It's been like, this is absolutely incredible just to see hundreds of Polynesians, Zumba, you see that, you can see convention Zumba, but when it's like 90% poly and nothing like it, it is, eventually when I walk away from this thing, it's going to be, it's something that I'm going to hold close to my heart, for the rest of my life, just to be able to witness that and to see it. I mean, I'm still humbled by my classes. I just see, see everybody in my class moving, and I'm just like, who would ever thought? Who would ever thought? And I'm not trying to, not saying this to put our people down, but it's just like the fact that you have a classroom full of Polynesians just like grinding, and they're just, and they're driven. They're just like, we're all one in purpose. We're all just trying to get ourselves to a better place, physically, emotionally, mentally. It is a humbling experience to be a part of. And that's the best way I could describe it. So,
such a motivation, man. I know that you have different classes out there, but just to see our own people, our own community as Polynesians, just put a lot of more motivation for you, and even probably hard for you to leave this type of professional.
It is. I have 5 beautiful children. I have 4 girls, 1 boy. My boy's right in the middle, and my part of my my reasoning in wanting to walk away is just because even though I'm teaching classes at a time when they're sleeping, because I teach only early morning classes at 5:15 in the morning. It's just a mental bandwidth, because I don't take lightly the responsibility of being an instructor. So I pour so much into it. Even when I'm in class, I'm constantly driving my students to, to move and to do things that, I'm just trying to push them. And so I will literally leave class and I am like, I'm spent. I'm completely dead for the rest of the day, and there, and then in a lot of classes, I'm not even really necessarily moving with them. I'm just like walking around, calling out the movements. And sometimes, I have had people joke, well, you're not even doing anything. I'm like, little do you know, you don't see the emotional, the mental bandwidth of what I'm doing to help you out, And so, yeah, gosh, I totally forgot. What was your question that you're asking me?
I think I forgot the question.
You were talking about, just the teaching. I want you guys to understand too, and I didn't mean to catch up, but this has definitely been a collective thing, right?
Yeah.
To say that I'm the reason why this became so big, I just believe that other Polynesian, because we're focusing this around the Polynesian, right? Other Polynesian instructors who have gotten certified and started teaching in their areas, they all contributed to it. My sister and my brother have played a huge part in it. We've all had a role in it. And, for me personally, I'm just grateful that I was able to be a part of it. So.
The fact that you're able to, it's hard. I get it. Waking up early in the morning, not just 5 in the morning. You got to get up like way ahead of that 4 in the morning, I guess, because then
Yeah.
you got to get ready. Then you
Every
got to,
morning.
get over there, then get things set up. And then on top of that, you mentioned the toll that it takes on your body for the full day because you're not giving your 100% to your family or whatever
Yeah.
you need to, for the rest of the day. But the fact that you're there present for everyone and try to live deviate yourself to be able to be there for each and every person that you're trying to be there for. My question to you is how does your missionary in the past play a part in your future and the way that you are coordinating your daily life with what's going on?
You mean as having been a former missionary? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, going back to going back to my family, and I've told my students this, I tell them, I'm like, your contribution to what you get, your contribution for class can in no shape or form compensate me for the time I'm losing being away from my family.
Mhm.
I go, I don't care if you're paying more than that. I go, it's just because I can't get that time back. Even, because I've had some, and they're only joking, but they're like, your kids are sleeping. I'm like, yeah, but I'm away from them, and then the time of
Yeah.
preparing and prepping and my mind being focused on classes is time that I'm not focusing on my
Yeah.
family. But when you're talking about just that missionary, being the missionary minded or the experiences when I was a missionary, how that relates today, I just I go back to the sense of purpose and obligation I feel to serve.
Mhm.
And for me, I think like a big part of why I've been able to push through it, because when I tried to retire the first time and I went back to teaching, um, my youngest daughter came to me and she said, Daddy, why are you teaching again? You told me you said you were going to stop. And, trying to help my young daughter, I mean, she's not young, but she's in 6th grade, but to explain to her that, that dad feels an obligation, to serve these people. Like, that's the essence of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's just like, is to be able to take your eyes off of yourself and
Yeah.
place it on the needs of others, and it's not always easy, and, I don't even, and my students have been, the people that come to my class have been so grateful and have been very, very open and expressing that appreciation. But I don't even think they truly understand the sacrifices that my family has had to make to support me in this role of, because again, I never wanted to do it. I never wanted to do it. I never, I was like, share it, you get, and you instruct, you teach, and I can go back and just stay in my basement because I was content doing that. But when you feel people, the weight of people leaning on you and it needing you, like in a sense of like, man, I my survival, or me being able to just get through the days dependent upon these classes, man. It elevates. You feel like now I have to take my eyes off of my own needs and be like, okay, I need to serve these people and help them out, even though someone somewhere else in my life is being affected by it. And that's why I'm so grateful for my wife and kids, because they've been able to connect into the vision of Dad's doing something to bless the lives of other people. And even though he may not be here or whatnot, we're going to support him, because as far as my personal beliefs when it comes to the gospel of Jesus Christ, is that's the essence of the gospel, is to serve selflessly, even by being able to take your eyes off yourself and focus on the needs of other people, and to be able to serve them and to help them. And that's what's kept me going, guys, truthfully, because I could quit tomorrow and just go back to focusing on just life with my own family and kids. But what keeps pulling me back is this sense of obligation of that the people need me. They need my help. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah. The way you were talking, the way that you plan your whole week out. Let's just say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're teaching. You're so motivated. The enthusiasm that you have to go through as far as making sure this whole class is actually good, with a good vibe. And let's just say that transitioning from that to Sunday, it's a switch that you turn from being hype and into where that you have to transition yourself to a whole different level. And if you don't mind talking about that, I know that you just got out of a meeting from church, and it's just that I don't know if I can picture having all the extreme and everything, the extreme step, and then you have to go through all the planning and get all the music and everything, and then to where that, okay, let me go ahead and turn the light off. All the music that I've planned and everything, I got to put that on the side. Let's focus on the hymns. Let's focus on the lesson. Let's just go ahead into spiritual world. If you don't mind talking about it.
Well, yeah, it hasn't always been easy. I mean, it's to turn that switch off. I don't think you necessarily turn it all the way off, because Sundays, Monday's coming the next day, and I'm already preparing for the next day. But I do my best to be able to keep it separate, and and to be in the moment of as far as with Sunday in particular, and focusing on my family, and just just making sure that I'm vested in what we're doing on Sundays. To me, it's important that my kids understand, just the importance of the gospel being a priority for them in their lives, to have that as my wife and I, to do our part in helping to set a foundation in the lives of our kids, to have that be at the forefront of everything we do. And so, like I said, I give so much credit to my wife, because she's the one that is able to, like when I'm like distracted, she's like, dude, put that away, like, hey, get off your phone. Hey, get off the laptop, and but yeah, it's not always been easy. That's just being truthful with you, is that to change hats, so to say, and now become the spiritual leader for our family, or the co-spiritual leader with my wife. It's sometimes I feel like we're doing a great job, and then sometimes I feel like, oh man, Tony, you got to really reprioritize. And it's funny, because this analogy was shared with me one time with a leader in the LDS church, and he was visiting and was giving some training, and because you guys are both members of our faith, it was President Bednar, and I was asking him a question, and I said, man, President Bednar, you're leader in the church. You're also a father to a beautiful family, but you're also very successful in your professional career. How do you balance it all? And he looks at me and he goes, you don't. And I was like, he goes, there's no such thing. He goes, the key is to make sure that you're able to focus on a specific area and get it caught up to speed, and then turn your attention to another. Because let me share with you an example. He goes, those acrobats that wear like the suit with these little needle spindles on it, and they spin a plate and they put it on one spindle, right? And then they'll spin another plate, and then the next thing you know, they have all these plates spinning on these needles on this suit that they're wearing. He goes, now the key for the person that the acrobat is to pay attention to the plate that's losing velocity and is about to fall off the needle, and to get it spinning up to speed, and then they can turn their attention to another plate. And so, for me, that's really how the approach I've tried to take, and is like, if as a husband I'm like totally sucking it up, I'm totally failing, and I'm really messing things up in my role as a husband, then I'm going to do everything I can to get that caught up to speed. And then I could turn to another area of my life and be able to, like, okay, I need to become a better father. So I'm going to focus on my fatherly duties and responsibilities. And so that's what I feel like, that's the approach I've tried to take, is just try to focus on different areas, and focus on one particular area and try to get that up to where it needs to be, and then focus on somewhere else where maybe I'm dropping the ball. So I don't even know if that answered your question, dude, but
No, no, no. It was pretty good. I mean, most most parents, as far as work and family, some things, there's only two things that they have to focus on, which is family and
yeah,
working. But for you, it's like you might have another job besides the extreme and all that kind of stuff and everything. But the thing of it is that you're actually having three parts of personalities that you have to play in this role. Um, got to be the instructor for the extreme, and you got to be showing the way that when you go to church, and then most importantly, which is the priority as a fatherhood, always being this front and center when you're at home. And what you just explained, that you just got to speed up with every focus that you have to when you're actually teaching, and then you're actually at in Sunday school or whatever, or when you're in the house. But the most important person that you just said that always play a big role into it is your spouse, and always reminding you and all the schedule that you have to go through, keeping you pulling you back into where that, hey, let's just go ahead and focus on this first. Let's go ahead and come down and make sure that we're taking the right steps instead of just don't skipping two at a
yeah.
time. So,
Well, I feel like, I mean, you have to, right? Because your kids they don't care. They don't care what your excuse is. I mean, they're looking at me and they're like, like, you're giving this time and devoting yourself to these other people that are not necessarily our family. Like, for them, they're just like, that's not an excuse for you dropping the ball, being present for us. And so, I'm just grateful that I have a wife, that my wife, just together, because my kids are heavily involved, like any other family, Polynesian family. They're involved with sports. And so my wife, outside of extreme, it's like, and our responsibilities with church and whatnot, with, it's like, you go that way, I go this way, I'll go this way, you come back, grab this kid. And we're not any different from anywhere else. We just, now that we just have the added weight of the extreme and teaching classes, we just got to become more efficient in what we do. And but you're right, man. My wife is the reason why we're able to do that, because if not, she would have divorced me long time ago. So
You know, I like to think that, like, I think that's another reason why a lot of women go to classes for therapy. Like for me, I do running because that's therapy for me. Now, if your step class was here, I would definitely drop the running and do step for real, honestly, because I just like Kalani, I when I was younger, and to my kids who are going to be listening to this, do not take this at do not do what I did back in the past. I did clubbing a lot just for the dancing part, and because you go into the club, you start dancing, you don't even realize 4 hours have passed already. And so it's the same thing with step. But when I do running, it's like, okay, I did 1 mile, I got two more to go, and it's in my head and it drives me crazy, but it makes me forget what's going on in my life, right? and
yeah,
and I feel like
yeah,
that's the same with all the women who go to your class, and of course men too, but they hide it. I don't know where they hide their stress. It's probably in their head or whatever, I don't know. But um the fact that for women, they're able to do multiple things at the same time, but then they have to release that stress elsewhere. And so when you talk about how we learned that, like for me, I thought we had to balance things out, and I've always tried to balance with my 6 kids. Well, I have to say 7 kids because my husband is a part of that, and it's been very difficult. But I've learned that it's not about balancing. And I also learned recently, um, with my kids, just like how I was growing up. My dad, he's a workaholic, and mom stayed home, took care of us, and I hated that my dad didn't have time for us. But for us to have time with my dad, he would make us work for him. And uh, and I hate working for free. But if we came home and we didn't have chicken, we call pilikaki. We knew that we didn't do good at work, and we needed to hustle at the office. But as I got to be an adult, I realized that watching my dad, watching my mom's movement, even though they weren't giving us their full attention, actually instill good traits in me and instill good habits. And I feel like that's the same with your family as well. Is the time and sacrifice that you put into other parts, and that as you try to take care of this part to jump into the other, not that they're doing nothing, but those who are waiting are actually watching and seeing your works in action. And if they're not seeing it now, they'll be able to see that later in the future. Now, with that said, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure that you've come across a lot of criticism, or maybe not. And I'm sure now, being that you've done this for so long, you've been so immune to it. So how were you able to handle all of that?
Yeah, they're definitely it definitely hasn't just just been like a smooth sailing, so to say. It's sad to
Mhm.
say, but our Polynesian people are also uh, can be a wedge in something as good as this movement with Extreme, with the Polynesians and Extreme, and without going much into detail, we've had to deal with that. Whether feelings, uh, towards me or towards something or towards what we were doing was negative, or the reason behind it. But it's for me, I just had great parents. They weren't perfect. They had their weaknesses and shortcomings, but they were great examples. And you were talking about that, like my kids watching, and I watched my parents, and that was really their lifestyle. They were always serving, and helping. I really feel that's really kind of the poly way. It's just we're always helping people, and so but yeah, when it came to Extreme, we definitely, you it's unfortunate, but despite the success of and the impact of the program among the people, it hasn't come without challenges, and a lot of those challenges have been self-created, or what's the right word, self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And where it's created some tension or some drama, so to say, and it's unfortunate, but I've never got caught up in that. I just I don't know. I know this may sound very elementary, but I just never allowed myself to get caught up in the noise. For me, I just would been able to stay focused on the task of serving
Yeah.
and just teaching. But and there have been moments where like part of me wanted to kind of say something, but I knew that I've been my parents. I believe did such a great job in helping me to understand that being able to take the high road, in situations like that, where at least for me, my mentality is such where um, everything will work out. The truth will
Mhm.
eventually come out. So
Yeah.
if I'm convicted in within my conscience and in my heart of knowing that I'm doing the right thing, then regardless of the noise and the chirping and everything that I've heard on the outside, I knew that once a person was able to get past all of that and see the truth or the reality of whatever it is that I was doing, they could never question me without just being, they could never question my sincerity and my motives, my intention, and why I did things. And I've always taken that approach, and it has always served me well, and
Yeah.
so yeah, there's, oh gosh, Extreme with it hasn't all been like just bliss and great. It's unfortunate, but our people, you know and they can take a good thing and ruin it too, what I mean. And so, but
But actually, it's a
overall,
good thing too, right? It's actually a good thing because it keeps you on your toe to push further and push harder.
Oh yeah.
to
Amen.
elevate your craft at the same time, I
Amen.
feel.
Yeah, you nailed it. That is true. I just like, for me, if I heard anything negative towards me, and it wasn't much, but whenever I heard something, whether it was shade or some commentary, then it just drove me to get better. It would get better and to deliver a better experience, to elevate the expectations. So when people came to my class, they're just like, "Dang man, that was well worth it," and
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, exactly what you said. So
I think I had a conversation with my sister a couple weeks ago, and she had reminded me because I was gonna go keyboard warrior. I was like, "Oh, you can do that to me? Okay, let's do
everybody wants to
it."
be a keyboard. I want to be a keyboard, but yeah.
I want to be certified keyboard warrior, you know. But but she had reminded me about, and I don't know the exact word of President Nelson, or before he had passed away. She said that he said to focus on when do not respond to negative that comes your way, but respond in a friendly way or something like that. And I said, well, how am I going to react in a friendly way? She goes, well, the way mom raised you, just don't say anything, don't bring attention to it, just it'll pass, and if it keeps coming, just let it go. I mean, whoa, I mean, just like what you mentioned, if it's not right, why do you even pay attention to it? Why does it even why you let it bother you? And I was like, you know what, you're right, I'm just gonna go get my nails fixed with my dollar Walmart kit and go
It's
instead of
like
wasting
driving
it
on
on
a
the
road.
keyboard.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It's
you
like
know
it's like driving on a road when you see the split roads and the other road, the other side is too dark. You don't want to be there. Just keep on driving to where the light is at.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
But
no, go ahead.
go ahead, Nessel. I'll
No,
have
no, go
another
ahead, go
question
ahead,
after if you don't mind.
go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
it's it's always cool to see other our people that we pick and choose to come on this platform, and to also to listen to their stories, not only regardless of their background of what they do and their specialties and all that. And most of the stories, it does connect to where that it always come down to families, love, and sharing it to those that may still out there looking for answers and actually wanted to share those kind of feelings, but yet hopefully that we touch base on it. And our community as a Polynesian, it's something that we always want to, as far as sharing our experience and as far as trying to let people or other people hear, so that way that they can get some feedbacks, what they can do and stuff like that. And for this time, Brother Fall, for all the stories that he had shared as far as the extreme stepping and all that, it may impact some of the health conditions that some of our viewers that are going through. But most importantly, it's our mental issue as well. And I would like to like some of the quotes. This person right here that I know that are growing up in this faith. This person that became one of the my idol. I mean, most of our prophets and most of our leaders in our church as well. Everybody have their favorites, but I just wanted to read some of the quotes and some of the sayings that is so popular that he always say.
Okay.
And one of them is, it says, "Life is to be enjoyed, not endured." And another one is, "If life gets too hard to stand, kneel. You have not failed until you quit trying. In all of loving, have much fun and laughter." And most of the things that we touch base today is basically most of the stuff that this person had talked about, because it does go back to our culture as far as the Polynesian community, that the power of perseverance, the importance of enjoying life, and the value of trying one's best. And I want to thank Brother Fa for all the experience and everything that you have shared, because you know what? I never knew that stepping will benefit somebody that was going through a lot of hardships as far as the medical conditions that they have dealt. Something that actually that was holding them down. But it's because of the person that it's I was loving him, and because of the person that was next to him that pushing them. Hey, it does relate to us as far as parenthood, because that's the reason why we always have that counselor next to us to counsel us and
Absolutely.
to be able to push us. And this person that everybody knows, that you guys know, is Gordon B. Hinckley, and that's one of my favorite person too.
My favorite too.
So, and I'm not sure if I have any more questions, but I think there's a question in there that Leaso put in that it's called. I think she said that if you don't mind finishing the sentence, faith without blank is dead. If you don't mind, following, if you can
Yeah,
finish.
right. It's the faith without works is dead, right? And I don't know. I just whatever, regardless of regardless of what your religious background, your faith is, I just I believe that if you truly believe in something, it's gonna you're gonna demonstrate that belief in your actions and what you do, right? And so you know. For me with it, because we've been talking about extreme and whatnot, that's really that's really been the driving force behind me, is just that when something has impacted you so much and has really changed your life, literally saved your life, like as extreme has done for me, uh, then there's a sense of obligation, like to pay it forward, right? Someone has blessed my life, and now it's my turn to pay it forward and helping it to bless other people's life. And you know, a lot of the poly people, they don't look at Phil like I do. They don't, and I get it, because they weren't introduced to the program by the creator. A lot of them were introduced to the program, but either through other people or through me and my siblings when we started sharing this with our people. And so, for me, it's just like, this whole idea of, of being able to pay it forward, that's been really the driving force for me, is just like, how can I show my appreciation to Phil, because the program is called Xtreme Hip Hop with Phil, or how can I show my appreciation and love to him, my debt of gratitude for what he's done for me in my life and how he's impacted my life. Well, the best way I can do is just to take what he shared with me and now share it with other people, and I think that translates to all areas of life, right? It's just, what is your faith if you're not able to put it into action, right? And to me, faith is an action word. It causes you to move and to react. And so if if you're saying something in your mouth and it's not being backed by action, then it's just empty words. And
Dead, yeah.
yeah, it's dead. Faith without works is dead, and it's true. And so I've tried to live my life in that premise, and sometimes I'm able to do there's been periods of times in my life where I've done a better job, than there's other times where I've really dropped the ball, and so, and extreme is I've been fortunate enough to be able to use that to be able to demonstrate that as well. So anyway.
So I have to ask, okay, so um, how can someone from American Samoa, Hawaii, or Texas start a movement like yours?
Well, it's funny, because the most of the instructors in American Samoa, and we had, I think, one or two in Western. I certified those instructors, meaning that when you go through the certification process, you have to put together 2 demo videos where you're showing that yourself calling out, and they're doing choreographed routines that were done, that Phil created, and then you submit it, and I review it, and then I give the thumbs up whether you're able to start teaching. So a lot of the instructors there, most of them in American Samoa, I was privileged to be a part of their certification process. But I'll tell you something. Because people look at me in a certain way. Like I said, I know people, have, they view my siblings and I in the light of, like, in a very favorable, like, respectful, like, you guys have brought this to our people, even though it's not our program. And so we've had opportunities where, like, they said, we want you come out here. We want you to come out here and come out here to us and tour, like, because, Phil tours, and I've always turned down the opportunities because I've never looked at myself like that. I've never looked at myself as, for number one, it's not my program. I just shared the program that, helped me. But if I ever did have the chance to go anywhere, guess where my number one, if I had to choose just one place in the entire world where the Polynesians are stepping, American Samoa would be the place I would go. Just because I had a big part in helping those instructors go. And then also add to the fact that we were gonna my oldest daughter was a competitive swimmer, and
Wow.
she was going to represent Tonga in what they call the Pacific Games, and
Oh yeah.
it was supposed to be in Western Samoa, and we had prepared and prepped for her to go there and represent Tonga, and then we found out that she was too young. The Pacific Games Council emailed us and told us that she was too young. She was 12. You have to be 14 to compete. So,
So she has to wait 2 more years now?
well, this was years ago, like around
Oh,
COVID.
okay. Okay.
Around COVID. Yeah, we've been privileged. My daughter was, my two oldest daughters were competitive swimmers, and so we were able to travel around the world to have them represent, Tonga in swimming. So it was
Wow.
a great experience for us. So, but
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, you talked about are people trying something different besides just the same old
I was
volleyball?
just gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah,
So when you were saying that, I
volleyball
was
or
thinking, like, oh yeah, we experienced that. My daughters wanted to be try swimming, and I was so against it. I fought so hard to not have them swim, and they proved me wrong. And actually, I had a great. My oldest daughter actually, she had a lot of success and could have swam in college, but I think because she had been swimming since she was 9, by the time she finished high school, she was like, "I'm done, Dad. I'm
she's
burned out."
tired. Yeah,
Yeah, burned out from it. So,
yeah.
so
That's the one thing we try to avoid having our kids get burnt out of something, right?
yeah,
When they
what's
get to
kind of the
that point.
nature of sports today? It's like today you got to like commit yourself to year round, commitment to a particular sport instead of just playing a variety of them. So
Yeah, that's a different subject. Yeah, I totally
yeah,
get that. It's like, yeah, and I have an argument with that because I feel like they gotta play a lot of different sports. But
I agree.
anyways, right?
Yeah,
So that's exciting that American Samoa was able to be certified through your program. Well, just
yeah.
because man, we definitely would love to have that spread out wide even more, not just American Samoa, but also with Western Samoa and other parts of the island, because I feel like if everybody's hitting the clubs, I'm sure this is safer for them so that they can make it to church the next day.
Well, what's funny is I think it's interesting just to note that when you look at the breakdown of the Polynesians that are doing extreme, it's a majority Samoan. Yeah, it's majority. It's majority Samoan, and so when you look at it flourish in like American Samoa, they had a guy named Chris uh, that was teaching in Western, but he was married to a Tahitian girl, and he has
Mm,
since relocated to Tahiti. But in Western Samoa, his classes were just exploding. And then in the American Samoa side, the Samoan churches at LMS,
yeah.
yeah, huge. They in fact they got multiple instructors, and they have a beautiful facility in American Samoa where they teach both extreme hip hop, the step program, and also burn. And amazing people. And so they actually came down to LA after they got certified. They came down to LA and they went back with 100 step boards back to
Jeez.
Samoa. Yeah, they
Wow.
went back to Samoa, and you could catch them on YouTube or Facebook if you follow them, and they have huge classes. And I'm talking about classes like not only women but classes of guys. It'll blow your mind. They do such an
Well,
incredible job over there. So
hopefully we got our government also doing those classes too.
Or at least contribute to some of that because it does
yeah,
benefit all the health that we need. That I didn't even
yeah,
know. I didn't even know this. I just learned
yeah,
it
yeah.
today.
If you jump
Wow,
on,
that's pretty cool.
maybe I'll just tag you on their Facebook page. But it's amazing to see what the instructors in Samoa are doing over there. This is incredible. And
Wow,
then even in
kudos to those
Brisbane,
guys.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
So, I know it's getting late, and so I wanted to ask this question before I turn the time to Kalani. I always ask this question to a lot of our guests that come on our podcast. Looking back, to looking back at the past, there's you don't realize the future, so you figure out, looking to your past. Now thinking about all of that, do you think that everything that you've gone through in your life, what you have gone through, what you're going through with diabetes and everything that you had to go through with the challenges, do you feel like they were meant to be for the purpose of what's going on currently in the situation you're in right now.
I do believe that the experiences were there for a you know, that that I went through those experiences for a reason, whether it was to eventually be introduced to Extreme and then to play a role in that being shared with other people. Um, maybe it could have been in a different format as well, but I do believe that those experiences were necessary to get me back in alignment where I needed to be. And I just really believe that's really what life is. As we may, depending on your values and what you believe in. But I just believe, that's just part of the experience of life itself, is as we veer off course, is finding ways to bring ourselves back in alignment with what we believe to be true, or or where we feel like our life needs to be heading. And I believe, like, my life was out of alignment with where I needed to be. And Extreme came at a time that helped me just to get things back where it needs to be. But it's a constant battle. I know people look at me and they're like, man, you lost 100 pounds. And it's just like, well, yeah, I lost 100 pounds, but it doesn't mean, like, that the battle was over. I still have my own little personal battles that I deal with. And I just think that's just part of life. It's just,
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I've always tried to measure how things are going in my life based off of change, and that's the barometer that I use. Am I changing? Am I better? Am I better version of myself in all areas of my life today than I was yesterday? And one of my favorite quotes is, if you find yourself further away from God than you were yesterday, then you can be certain who it is that moved, right? And so for me, in life, there's no such thing as neutrality. You're either getting better or you're moving further away from the goal, whether you believe in God or not. And so for me, it's just I measure myself based off, am I getting closer and closer to, where for me, my personal beliefs, who I need to become. Am I becoming a better father? Am I becoming a better husband, a better brother, a better member of the community and that's what keeps me grounded. And so that's kind of just, my barometer of how I measure my success in life was just based off of that. So.
Well, I got
Well,
one
I
more
don't have any.
question.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. That's
Okay.
sorry.
So, actually, I have two.
Sure. No worries.
So I know that there's got to be this feeling you felt when you first met your wife, when you first saw her. Um, do you feel like what was the who said yes, you or her? Who was
Well,
the first to approach? Is she there?
yeah, well, she fell asleep. If she was awake, she would be eager to share her version. Her version's a little slanted, but it's definitely become more favorable towards her, but
Can we edit this part later?
yeah, if she was awake, I would message you after the show and say, can you guys edit that part out? But it's funny, really quickly, I met my wife when they formed that Tongan branch
Mhm.
where I grew up. Her dad was called to be the first branch president. And we were in a Bologna ward. They called my mother to come and serve in a calling there. And so we eventually made the move over. That's when I met her. And she's my wife's 3 years younger than me, but she makes it sound like she's like 20 years younger. So the story that she shares is our branch was really small. So when we had like Sunday school, we just had everybody combined, from 12 to 18. Well, when I graduated from high school, her dad was the leader, our branch leader, and he turned around and made me become the teacher of that youth class. So I'm teaching my friends, my peers I grew up with. So she tells everybody I was her Sunday school teacher, and everyone looks at me like I'm like a child molester or something like that. But that's the story she was going to tell you. She was awake, but it was definitely me. She, after her dad was released, my wife's from Hawaii. She moved back to Hawaii, and I didn't see her for years. I went and served a mission, came back, and then I ran into her at a big wedding. She's a Matailes, so that's a big family in the Tongan community. And I saw her for the first time, and we were both older, and I approached her immediately and said, I'd like to get more acquainted with you. And she basically told me no, and because she wanted to serve a mission serve a mission
Wow.
Yeah, so she went on her mission, and she doesn't believe me, but I waited for her because she used that as an excuse. She came back, and she wasn't even home a week, and I went on the attack. I convinced her to go on a date. The first date we went, I told her I was going to marry her, freaked her out. But after dating for a couple of months, she eventually came to the same conclusion, and we got married, and it was funny because my wife and I wanted to have kids right away, and so we got to a point after 4 or 5 years in, where we started pursuing medical means, and she tested. She did all the tests. She was cleared, and she was good. She was fertile. So they started teaching me. After my first test, they called us in from our jobs, and so after we got off work, we came in, and they broke the news to us that we wouldn't be able to have kids, and we were absolutely devastated. And eventually found ourselves in the office of our bishop, and he gave her a blessing and told her in the blessing there was a promise extended that if we would bring our life more in alignment with the gospel of Jesus Christ, that we would have a kid. And my wife and I left that office, and we were like, we're going to put it to the test. And it wasn't like we were doing bad stuff. We were doing, or stuff that, we were, in the eyes of what, in the church, going to church, we were doing all that stuff. But obviously the way we were looking at it, the Lord was like, yeah, you're not doing enough. You need to. And so my wife and I, we made the adjustments in the areas that we need to make the adjustments in to bring our lives more in alignment with what we believed in. And 6 months later, she woke me up crying with a pregnancy test, and now we have 5 kids. And our oldest one just graduated last year. So I don't know about you. I know you were asking about my wife, but she's everything. I'm more in love with my wife now than I've ever been before. She's the center. She's the anchor of our family, and none of this happens. All this extreme stuff. None of this happens if it wasn't for her. So truly grateful for her, even though she's sleeping right now.
Nice.
That's a beautiful thing to hear from a man to talk about his wife like that. That's very beautiful, you know.
Yeah, I don't think I do anything special, but I always, I don't know. I always wanted my wife to. I always wanted my wife to feel elevated. I always wanted to be that guy that, was always telling her how much I love her and appreciate her, and I always wanted to treat her like a queen. And there's times I definitely dropped the ball, but she definitely has made life so much easier. You have to be married to me, and she's absolutely incredible. I'm just in awe of who she is, and really grateful that I'm married to her. So anyway,
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, thank
Well,
you.
I
That
have
was
a
easy.
one
That
more
was the
last
easy.
question.
That was the easiest question. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I have one last question to ask you. What would you tell your younger self today, standing on that stage with 200 plus people?
Man, I just uh I would just I just tell myself not to be so hard on myself. And just that there's that there are sunnier days ahead. I've gone through a lot growing up in my life. Things that that we had to go through. As a family, and then just things like I shared with you that were very personal and intimate to us, like with the kids and not being able to have kids or being told. But yeah, I just tell myself, like, smile and just know that keep your head up and just know that you can get through it. And I really believe. I mean, I think about what I've seen my kids going through, and or just the younger generation, and um, I grew up in a time, and I'm assuming you guys grew up in around that same time where it's just like I remember one time I literally tried to like be dramatic, and my dad was like, my dad was disciplining me, and I remember telling him, you just don't understand, Dad, and he was just like. I was trying to, I was trying to, have this
Yeah.
emotional, watching too much movies, thinking like, and I tried that. My dad was like, tugal al PC, which in the tongue language is stop being nonsense. But yeah, I just, I'm a big believer in humor. If you get a chance to know me personally, and I think the people will tell you that come into my class is that, humor is at the forefront of everything I do. And unfortunately I push it to the edge sometimes, and and then maybe it can be inappropriate at times, but I believe that you just gotta laugh
Yes.
at yourself, like, dude, it's okay, you messed up. And that's, to me, is when you lose hope, is when you think like you can't change this, you can't change it, and you just hang on so much to the past that it doesn't, you just can't even see hope for the future, and so for me, the transition of learning how to just let things go that has happened in the past and just focus on the future has been uh, life changing for me. So yeah, so if I had to give advice, I'd be like, hey man, it's okay, just get up and just enjoy the journey. So yeah.
But I don't have any more questions because I think that's why I already asked all the questions and
Oh
she based off,
yeah.
But it's just when you say that laughter and you're always a person of
Yeah.
humor, it's myself as well. I always want to see the whole crowd to be happy and always smiling because that always brings a light in the room, regardless what's going on. But it always brings back our favorite artist, Bob Marley. Just don't worry, just be happy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's so yeah. It's so cliche. It's so cliche, or so like, well, it's what everyone says, but it's so true, man. Just learn to. That's one of my biggest peeves is when a person can't laugh, and they take
Right.
themselves too seriously, and
And you cannot even tickle them because they'll still be like, get
yeah, they're
off
so
on me.
so
Like,
tense, and it's just like, gosh, man, like I do. I like to I like to infuse humor in when I interact with people, and a lot of that sometimes teasing, and sometimes I can take it to the to the edge. But I just believe you gotta laugh at yourself, man. It just makes
yeah.
life so much better. Yeah, yeah. I think
Well,
that's
there's no other questions, Lesso, but I just want to
No.
say my last
Go
words, if
ahead.
you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
awesome.
No, go ahead.
No, thank you so much, Brother Fa. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here with the Pulse of Polynesian, and hopefully
Mhm.
that our community and anybody out there as a Polynesian, please hit Brother up because with
Yeah,
all the experiences that he'd been through and all this stuff, myself didn't even know that American Samoa has been impacted from this brother, but
Yeah.
uh, looking forward to watching those videos as well and everything, and also looking forward to maybe I'm gonna have to get my wife and my kids. Hey, we're gonna have to go do some stuff in the garage, not knowing that we're gonna do some stepping. But don't be surprised if I contact you, brother,
Lord,
as opposed
me,
to some of the stuff because I don't know anything. Because if that music plays in the garage, it's probably just dancing, not even having to unison as far as what we need to do. But other than that, those are my few words. I just want to thank you so much for being with the Pulse of Polynesia and also with my host, Leaso, for having me as well. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you, Glenn.
Tony, Brother Fox, if there's anything you would like to say, last closing before we end.
Oh, thank you. I really don't look at what I've what people view me, the role I've played, and maybe the perceived impact. I've never looked at myself that way. I've just been grateful that I've been in a position where I could impact people. I think that's really what people want in life, is just a sense of purpose. Like, I've made a difference, and Extreme has allowed me to be able to do that. But I've never looked. I just feel like I was fortunate to be in a position to be able to introduce it to so many people. Um, and yeah, just grateful. I mean, that that you guys saw value in me coming on your podcast and being able to just share some experiences. But I'm just grateful, really humbled to be a part of it. And I know, how's Crystal connected to you guys? Is she part of the podcast sometimes,
She
or?
is, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a part of our panel member, so yeah. So she's a
So
part of our podcast, yeah.
yeah, so what Crystal didn't tell you maybe is how big of an impact she's had, right? I don't believe that Extreme would have been able to get out to the world, so to say, especially in the Polynesian community, without Crystal allowing me to teach in her studio. Because I actually had the studio I started at, I wasn't able to teach there anymore, and so I went. I didn't have a place to teach, and I reached out to Crystal's manager, who was managing the studio that she and her mom ran, and asked if I could teach. And Crystal took a chance on me, and when I went to her studio, that's when it exploded.
Wow.
Yeah, so she didn't tell you that.
Oh, I
So,
didn't know. No, she didn't.
yeah, she didn't tell you that. So she's been very humble. She played a huge
Yeah.
part, and she saw she saw the value in the classes when no one really outside of people were coming to my class, and so I went there, and their studio is called Good Times NutriFit, and I started teaching there. And then there was another Polynesian studio. Both of them were owned by Samoan families. I went across in town, just down the street from Crystal's studio, and then I started teaching between these two. The other one's called Simply Nutrition, and between those two studios is where it all started, and it
Wow.
exploded. And so, two Samoan or Polynesian, owned studios that had a big part in the explosion with Extreme. But Crystal and her mom, Mama Tassi, were a critical part of it exploding. And without Crystal, it probably wouldn't. And their studio, some of the greatest memories and greatest experience. It became so big that I was literally teaching on average 4 classes a day per week
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
In Crystal studio, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. And it was all because Crystal was like, keep teaching, Tony. And so anyway, I just wanted to put a shout out for Crystal and her mom and playing a big part in that. So yeah, that's my last words. I just, if anything, if you got from the interview, I hope you guys could feel the debt of gratitude I felt and the privilege. I feel that I was fortunate to be in the position to be able to be a part of it. It wasn't all me. Even though a lot of people like to give me the credit, there were so many people that played a hand. My sister, my wife, even though she was an instructor, and studios and everybody and all the other instructors in the brand. So
If you make that's what just a few words since you mentioned Crystal. Wow, I didn't know that Crystal was a big
Yes.
part of it. But
yeah,
I grew up with Crystal back home in American Samoa, and her mom is always with her ukulele, and every time that we have our primary practice or anything song practice, because they're always practicing songs, and she would play her ukulele and made all of us stand in front of her, and she will teach us some of this stuff. And Crystal will be the front center to where that she leads us in dancing. And poor Crystal, that she was always dancing, not knowing that till fast forwarding right now, she still does it, and that's pretty cool to know that someone that grew up with that she still. So Crystal, if you watch this live, I don't know why you didn't come on this live. You should have been
shut
here
up.
instead of me. So, but other than that, thanks for sharing there, brother Fa.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate again. Thank you again, Brother Fa, for coming on. That's it's a blessing to be able to have you share your journey, and that's the one thing that I can say about all of our journeys. It's a testimony for us to be able to share and let others hear, so that hopefully those who are listening in, who will tune in later, will be able to take our testimony as as a walk of breath of life to help you in whatever challenges that you're going through, or know someone who's going through those challenges. And if you're in Utah or wherever you are in the world, look up Tony Fa and ask him about these certification, and where they're going to be in wherever parts of the world that you will be able to join in. And also, if you're in your garage, you have a garage, or in your room, you can also look them up. But at the same time, again, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence, and sharing your stories and your journey. And to all of our viewers out there, thank you so much, Brother Kalani. Again, thank you for being a host and
I
being a part
tried.
of our podcast as always. But as always, to all of our viewers, to God be all the glory. You guys all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Possible. Bye.